East End Pride today. Tell us what brings you out.
Just wanting to celebrate with our family. This is sort of part of who we are, and our daughter's here with us. She's
behind that tree.
Nervous. But
So that's your daughter with you?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be perfect to ask. I've been asking a lot of people about a kind of controversial bill right now that's being proposed. It's passed the third voting in the Senate. It may soon become a law, and this is Bill 89 that would say that parents would have to recognize the preferred gender pronouns of their children, and if they don't, the child could be taken away from them from government services. What are your thoughts on that bill? Do you think, is that going a little too far, or do you think that's a good thing?
I was reading about it, and that's the case not for birth parents, but for adopted parents.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what I read, which, I mean, it seems pretty severe, but also it would be damaging to the child to not recognize their preferred gender pronoun. You could be stunting their emotional growth if you don't, and I mean, I feel like it puts them at risk down the line.
Well, when I first heard about it, I started looking into a little bit of the stats, and there was a study that was done that showed that generally children who are feeling transgender feelings, 70 to 80% grow out of it when they grow up. What are your thoughts on those stats?
Even if that's the case, I don't know that makes a difference for what they're currently
I think you
comfortable
need
being
to honor,
identified.
Yeah, you need to honor the child where they are when they are, and if that is a phase, to be positive and supportive through what they're experiencing.
Is there an age limit, a cutoff, or any age?
I don't feel so. I think when you have a child, you are taking on the responsibility of loving that child for who they are at any stage in their life.
Mm-hmm. Now, another one that you may have heard of, this one's a little more popular, is Bill C-16. Have you heard of that one, and what are your thoughts? This, again, would suggest that, the government wants to have a law that would make it so you have to recognize someone's preferred pronoun. Otherwise, well, you could essentially go to jail, I suppose. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think it's incredibly important. For me, it ranks the same as not discriminating against people for their sexual orientation. So I don't understand why we would distinguish between the two.
Yeah.
Right. Some people see it as a little bit of a slippery slope where does it end where you can stop identifying as certain things? Like, for example, if a man wanted to identify as a female, that's fine, but what would that stop from somebody else wanting to identify as a cat? If I did identify as a cat, should you have to recognize me as one?
Are you willing to give up all your rights as a human? Are you that determined to be a cat?
Well, I think if somebody out there genuinely feels that they are, and there's people on the internet who are like this, they genuinely want to identify as something like that, should you have to recognize them as such? And should the police get involved if you don't?
I would stick to what I said.
Yeah.
If they're actually determined to be a cat, like they're actually living as a cat, which would mean having no identification, no driver's license, no driving, you wouldn't be able to rent, you wouldn't be able to own.
That feels like that would be discrimination.
That seems like they're pretty determined, but if, I don't know, I can't imagine someone being that determined.
Right. Yeah.
I would choose not to comment at this point because I think that to try to make a comparison like that is unfair. I see that as being different than gender expression, and so I think it complicates the issue, or it's distracting from the issue maybe to make those sorts of comparisons.
I guess the expression term is where I get confused too.
Okay, well, I guess gender identity as well, right? Because it's not just expression.
Because something else I was learning today just about what the letters back when I was learning about it, it was LGBTQ, and I'm hearing there's more being added to that. What's the latest acronyms? What do the letters stand for? For anybody who's maybe hearing them for the first time, LGBTQ, and I heard something about I. What are those?
I don't actually know what the full line
Spectrum.
is. I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know that it matters. I mean, I understand the point, but do we all need to have a specific identity? Does it matter? I don't know that it does.
Well, the reason why I bring it up is because some people pointed out I think the T stands for trans and the B stands for bi, but bisexual. But I thought bi would imply that there's only two genders, wouldn't it?
There's also pansexual, which would be being attracted to people regardless of their gender. So I think the Q, which stands for queer, would be more to the all-encompassing. I don't know if that's correct to say, but I think that it's meant to represent anybody who feels that they're a part of that community without, to her point, feeling the need to have a label.
But wouldn't the pan gender still technically be either a man or a woman?
No, it's regardless of gender.
Okay. I thought biology just says there's two sexes, I thought.
Sex would be different than gender. So can we ask what the purpose of this is? Because I'm not sure how comfortable I am in this being shared, depending on what the source or what the...
Yeah, we're with PFT News. We're just here to inquire about people's thoughts on both of those bills, because they're both coming to royal assent, it's called, which means it's basically going to become law any day now. So there's a lot of controversy around these laws. So a lot
Understandable.
Yeah.
So where does your organization stand on those bills? Because I guess I'm just curious about how this would be represented.
I'm just trying to remain non-biased here and get an open and honest opinion. But to be honest, to be quite frank with you, I don't feel the policing of our language is right. I don't feel that I should be forced by the government to suspend reality and recognize somebody else's thing. I have no problem recognizing people, anything they want to be called by. But when you get the government involved, and when you're going to threaten to have me thrown in jail for not recognizing what you want to be called by, that's where I have a problem with it.
So if it was your child who was having that experience and somebody was bullying them or beating them up or threatening to kick them out of their washroom of choice because they deem that to be a threat, where would you stand on your child's rights in that situation?
Well, I think it's up to the parent to decide what's best for the children at that stage.
But if there's no government protection for it, me as a parent, I have very little power to approach that child or approach that person that's threatening.
I just see it as, like I said, a slippery slope. Where does it stop? Where?
I think it stops at respecting people, or that if we are all respecting people for who they are, then that's ultimately what that bill is trying to accomplish.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Cool.